I have conducted this experiment, as I explained, over and over and over and over again, having this exact conversation at least once a week for 20 years. Not one Christian ever has produced evidence. He didn't either, nor can you. No one can. It doesn't exist.
That's not the debate
I demand
tonight.
that anybody in this room who calls yourself a Christian, if you think you have scientific evidence to indicate you're God, bring it. You ain't got it. I win.
That was popular atheist Aaron Ra vehemently and passionately, might I add, claiming that there is absolutely no scientific proof for the existence of God. But is this truly the case? Or could it be that he is willfully ignorant about the many arguments made for the existence of God? Let's take a look at 3 of the biggest arguments that indicate the existence of God.
So what? I mean, that doesn't prove that there's a designer. If anything about this universe were changed, this planet wouldn't have come to sustain life. I mean, the odds of a planet sustaining life are so low, but if planets are constantly forming, one planet will come to sustain life eventually. And if any of the tuning of this universe were changed, this planet wouldn't have come to sustain life. That doesn't prove there's a designer, though.
Well, it's not just that this planet came to existence. There wouldn't even be chemistry without some of these factors. There would be no matter. So it's not just a planet argument. It's an argument of the basic periodic table wouldn't be here, which means you couldn't have anything form. So the very fact that we have chemistry is a miracle, so to speak, or a fine-tuning argument. That's really where this argument goes. It's not just about life. You wouldn't even have chemistry if some of these factors weren't just so. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Now, the argument that is given is the multi-universe theory, which we only touched on briefly. And I mentioned Alexander Vilenkin and Alan Guth from MIT. Vilenkin's from Tufts, Guth's from MIT. Guth was the guy that came up with inflationary theory to begin with. But he, Board, and Vilenkin say even a multiverse needs an absolute beginning. So it doesn't get you out of the creator problem to say that there are multiple universes here and we just happen to be in the one that looks designed. There's another rejoinder to this, too. According to the multiple universe theory, every possibility happens somewhere. So in some other universe, you're up here and I'm down there. I'm the Christian, or you're the Christian, I'm the atheist. I mean, this is the multi-universe theory. In some world somewhere, the Holocaust occurred, but it occurred because the Jews volunteered to kill themselves. And Hitler wasn't really the one that did it. Every possibility, according to this theory, is real somewhere. Now, I think an easy way to show the probability against this is to say, let's suppose we were all playing poker together, you, me, and a few other people, and I got a royal flush. What's the odds of getting a royal flush? Does anyone know?
1 in 1,100-ish.
It's very small, whatever it is. So you might go, well, gee, that was lucky. Next hand, I get a royal flush again. You go, oh, come on, this can't be. Next hand, I get a royal flush again. And you go, you're cheating. And I go, no, we just happen to be in the universe where I get 3 royal flushes in a row. What are you going to say? Oh, you're right, let's keep playing. No, you're going to say what? It's much more probable that you are cheating, or I'm cheating, rather than we just happen to be in the universe that gives us 3 royal flushes in a row. Okay, again, this is a probability argument. That's all we're saying here. What's more probable? The wise man, according to David Hume, always bases his belief on the greater evidence. What's the greater evidence? That I'm cheating. What's the greater evidence? That this is a put-up job, that this universe is designed just this way because somebody designed it this way.
Frank does an excellent job explaining the fine-tuning argument. This argument asserts that the universe has been fine-tuned for life to exist. Frank goes on to elaborate that if elements such as the expansion rate of the universe were even imperceptibly different, the universe would have collapsed back in on itself, and that we wouldn't have existed. This makes it much more plausible that the universe is the result of intelligent design as opposed to a chaotic accident. It's certainly much more plausible than the science fiction multiverse theory many atheists are frantically peddling around. It's also very interesting to see how many atheists will do mental gymnastics in order to avoid acknowledging or giving credence to the idea that God is real and that He created the universe. Let's take a look at the other two arguments.
Could you go through the Kalam with us and explain it in detail for our UK viewers?
Sure. The Kalam says that everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe had a beginning, therefore the universe had a cause, and it turns out that cause is God. And even atheists today are admitting that the universe, space-time and matter, had a beginning out of nothing. Stephen Hawking, who probably was the top, at least well-known physicist in the world until he died a few years ago, and he was an atheist, he said that almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning at the Big Bang, that literally there was a creation event. Now, Hawking tried to come up with another explanation other than God. He failed. In fact, Hawking's explanation in one of the last books he ever wrote, which was called The Grand Design, he says this on page 181. He says, because there's a law like gravity, the universe can and will create itself out of nothing. To which your own John Lennox, who's a brilliant philosopher and mathematician from Oxford University there in the UK, said, when brilliant scientists say nonsense, it's still nonsense. So he was saying that about Hawking, who said a law like gravity. First of all, there was no gravity. And secondly, gravity doesn't create things. Gravity just does the same thing over and over again. So gravity couldn't have created us. Gravity itself needed creation. And so the interesting thing about the cosmological argument for me, Paul, is that when you unpack it, it gives you more attributes of God than any other argument. Because if space-time and matter had a beginning out of nothing, which even atheists are admitting, then it seems to me whatever created space-time and matter must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, personal in order to choose to create, because impersonal forces can't choose anything. And to go from a state of nothingness to a state of creation, someone had to make a choice, and only persons do that. The being would also have to be intelligent to have a mind to make a choice. And so I always ask people, when you think about a spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, personal, intelligent cause, who do you think of? God. Yeah. Well, how do you know
sounds like God.
My answer is always, we don't know it's the Christian God yet. We haven't done enough research yet. But if we keep looking at evidence, particularly the evidence for Jesus, we're going to realize that the same being that walked out of the tomb 1,987 years ago is the same being in whose divine nature created the universe out of nothing. So the cosmological argument basically just says if something had a beginning, it needs a cause. And since the universe had a beginning, then it needs a cause as well. And that cause has to be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, personal, and intelligent.
Franks points out the flaws in the idea that the created somehow created the uncreated, and stresses that whatever created space, time, and matter cannot be made of space, time, or matter. The cause must transcend space, time, and matter. It has to be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, powerful to create the universe out of nothing, personal in order to choose to create, as in order to create from nothingness, a choice must be made, and only persons can make choices. Also intelligent, in order to make a choice. The more one considers all these necessary factors, the more difficult it becomes to believe that all of these things could have randomly come into existence. We've covered the fine-tuning argument and the cosmological argument. Let's take a look at the last one.
Down to more or less like, especially like neurons and like the way the human body feels pain, I think he does have like somewhat of a case that at least physical pain on that paradigm holds weight for something of an objective morality. Again, like
but why is it wrong to inflict pain on people, according to him?
I think because when you...
What if you get enjoyment from it?
Why is pain bad? Well, I think like that's a question that, I mean, I've heard your response to this question a couple times, but I think that's definitely sort of how we would say the moral law is written on our heart. And again, I would concur with that. I think even from a secular standpoint, there's a base given knowledge that physical pain...
Hang on, Jack, because we got a long line behind you.
Yeah, I understand.
I see what you're saying. This is not an epistemological problem. It's an ontological problem. It's not how we know what good and bad behavior is. It's how do you define what good and bad behavior is in the absence of God? How do you discover what good is? Remember, if there's no purpose to the game, you can't say that, oh, this play will is a better play than this other play. This behavior is a better behavior than another behavior if there's no purpose to life.
Understood.
And there is no purpose to life on Harris's atheistic, materialistic worldview.
I concur. Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
The reason why the moral argument is so powerful is because most people, even most atheists, will concede that morals are real. Although they might argue that they don't come from God, they will often agree that morals are an intrinsic part of the human experience. Frank eloquently explains the moral argument and clears up the common mistakes which atheists typically make when discussing morality. Often they will confuse epistemology, which entails how one knows something is right or wrong, with ontology, which studies the existence of a certain thing. For example, in an atheistic worldview, an atheist can explain why we shouldn't harm our offspring, but not necessarily why it is wrong to do so. That would be a matter of opinion or personal preference. As Frank points out, since the universe would have no purpose in the atheistic worldview, it's really a free-for-all. Family, thanks for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please share the video so that we can reach more souls. More importantly, remember to live as Christ commands us to live. Go in peace and stay blessed.